Okay, hello everyone, this is FIDE Master Viktor Neustroyev, and thank you for attending my webinar number 89. Today we are going to talk about the breakup of a position. So when to open the position, how exactly to do it, and what you should remember before doing it. Okay, so we are waiting for more attendees to come, and please, guys, if you attend this webinar for the first time, could you please introduce yourself? For example, which country are you from, and what's your feeder, or maybe just a national rating. If you don't have any, just your chess.com elo. So I'm streaming this webinar on both platforms, on Twitch and on YouTube. Okay, while we're waiting for more people to come, just a quick a minute of a self-promotion. Okay, so this is my chess.com profile. You can send me a friend request. I'm pasting it here on Twitch. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Twitch account, which is this, and to my YouTube account. So this is my Twitch account. As for my YouTube account, just a sec, I'll send you the link. So this is the link to subscribe to my YouTube account, and tomorrow, I think tomorrow or maybe the day after tomorrow, I'm going to publish a new video on YouTube devoted to Stafford Gambit in Russian game. Okay, fine. And also this is our educational group on chess.com, Tricks of Chess. You can also join it. Why? There will be a lot of interesting things coming next week and the week after. I'm going to announce a few simuls that I'll publish there. If you would like to participate, please follow all the news here. You know, chess.com doesn't allow me to duplicate many my messages in different groups, so I'm going to publish it on maybe my page and maybe in the club, in this club. And actually here you can find here, if you click news, you can find the recordings of my previous webinars. For example, this one. This is a live stream that you can watch here on YouTube, or you can watch it on Twitch. However, Twitch saves videos only for 2 days, for a week, if I'm not mistaken. So please join this group. Okay, here it is. Fine, what else? And finally, my website. I'm just going to copy this link for you. What can you find there? My online courses. If you click online courses, there are a lot of them. If you have any questions about certain courses, just let me know. I'll answer and you'll decide whether you need it or not. Coaching, where I offer 2 products, training program for 3 months and for 6 months. This is a training plan that I create especially for you after I analyze your games, and if you follow my recommendations, you will improve. Okay, fine. So let's actually go back. Let's go back to the games. Actually, one more thing. So you know, I'm going to release a new video devoted to Stafford Gambit. What is Stafford Gambit? E4, E5, knight F3, knight F6. This is Russian game. Knight takes E5, and a very common move in this position is D6. Then we retreat, they take, and we can play either knight C3 or D4. But if they play knight C6, which is quite popular among club players, especially on chess.com or Lichess, what should you do then? This is what we are going to talk about next Sunday on the webinar, and next week I'll also publish the video devoted to this variation, and at least you'll be able to defeat black in this opening with white pieces. I'll show how to play properly. Okay, fine. Yeah, the name of the opening is Stafford Gambit. Okay, one more thing. I'm going to share some of my plans. So I think next week I'm going to publish... first of all, I'm going to conduct 2 simuls. One on Tuesday, the other one on Friday. And if you want to join, follow Tricks of Chess group on chess.com. Both simuls will be streamed on Twitch. Second, I'm going to announce another tournament. That will be a round-robin tournament between my students. I'm going to divide all my students into several groups. The main criterion will be their rating or their strength. So I'm going to divide them. They will play 2 games against each other with 30 plus 30. And for example, if you are my student, you enrolled into one of my courses on Udemy or on my website, especially on my website, you are also considered to be my student. You can message me. You can message me on tricksofchess@gmail.com and inquire if you can participate and in which league you should participate. So there will be 7 rounds. And as for money prizes, you know, money attracts a lot of cheaters. So that's why this time a money prize will be only for the players playing in the first league. Only for the strongest players. I mean, so I'll divide. Maybe I'll create 3 different leagues, and the strongest players will be playing in the first league, and the winner will get a money prize, of course. Okay, fine. Today we're going to talk about a breakup of a position, when to open the position and how. So what do you think is the main criteria to realize if it's time to open the position or not? What is your opinion? Any suggestions? Okay, I can help you a little bit. Yes, so here Parallax 2000 is definitely correct. You should open the position if you are developed better, or if your pieces are more active or may become more active in case if you open it, or they can get a better coordination if only open the position, or for example opening the position destroys enemy pieces coordination. No, in generally speaking, if our pieces are located or will be located in a more active way, then we definitely should open the position. And this is the first position I'm going to talk about. The game between Evgeny Vorobyov and Nikolai Pokazanyev. two Russian players and both grandmasters. What do you think white should do in this position? It's their turn to play. So how do you evaluate the position, and what do you think white should do? And if we talked about the development, what do you think about the development, by the way? Who is developed better? So, what do you think? Okay, actually, by the first glance, we can't say that one of the players is developed better. Looks like white developed their pieces, black is also fine, the bishop is on c8, but actually the diagonal is open. But you may notice that the bishop on e7 is not participating in the game at the moment. So that's why we can say the bishop needs improvement and better development. So bishop b8, maybe bishop c7, and actually bishop b8 blocks the rook, so maybe then first this bishop goes somewhere, then the rook comes, and then the bishop to b8. So you see, black is not developed and white leads in development. That's why opening the position here will be a good idea. And what move white plays? Of course they play e4. However, this is the move they should consider, but before making this move on the board, they should calculate everything. So every time when you look at positional factors of your position, it can give you a kind of a tip of which next move to be looking for. So here white is developed better, and white is trying to open the position to get better coordination. How exactly to do it? Should we play e4 immediately, or the first capture on e5 and then play e4? Well, as for capture on e5, I don't think it's a good idea, because after e4 in this position, bishop goes to b8, and we experience some problems. So something like that is not a good idea because of queen d4 check. But playing e4 first looks much better. What black can do? Let's analyze different options. In the game it was b6 played on the board. What if d takes e4? Knight takes e4, knight takes knight, bishop takes e4, and looks like open files and open diagonals for the bishops are in white favor. Okay, so there is a good comment about the position. If white open the position, black may get good opportunities to develop their pieces. That's true, but developing pieces for black will take several tempers. But in the open position, temper costs a lot. So with a few extra tempers in open position, you can create the initiative and, for example, pressure the enemy king or the enemy queen, activate your pieces, enter the enemy camp, and so on. So that's why don't be afraid to open the position, even if you believe it will allow your opponent to develop his pieces. At least you see the plan that your opponent may follow to be able to develop his pieces, but you are a few tempers up and you see that you can spend these tempers on something really helpful for your position that improves your pieces coordination and offers you the initiative. Okay, so yeah, for example, no, bishop e6 we can just capture, for example. If e takes f4, then I believe rook a e1 offers strong attack for us. And if bishop b8 in this position, just f5, closing it, closing both bishops. No, our bishop on e4 is also not a good piece, but every time we are thinking about f5, f6 with a tactical strike. So white will be much better here because of a lot of space. Okay, what else? What else to analyze? D takes e4 is not in black favor. What about d4 move? Then our knight goes to a4 with the intention of playing f5, for example. For example, what? Let's say bishop b8 is a blunder. Bishop e6, f5, bishop f7, and then we can initiate a kingside attack. Maybe first starting with this move, maybe just h3, g4, and so on. The position, the center becomes closed, that's why we have a lot of options. Okay, fine. e4, b6 was played on the board, not the best move. I believe d takes e4 was better. And now we may decide what to do. We can open the position by trading on e5 first or by trading on d5. F takes e5 looks like a better option. For example, knight g4, e takes d5 now. Then if this move, it's a blunder. Who can tell me what's wrong with queen e5 in this position? Why queen e5 is a blunder? Looks like the queen attacks on h2, but actually this move loses the game immediately. Who knows? Yes, exactly. It's because of bishop h7. Bishop h7, king h8, and rook f8. That's right. So how to play? C takes d5, but then knight d5 with the strong pressure. If e takes d5 and then let's say b takes c5, which looks good from the first glance, we can just play d6. And we are not afraid of c takes b4. Just move the king, queen e8, and knight e4, preventing them from playing knight f2. And if queen e5, for example, we can just take, king takes, check, he goes back, then maybe bishop f4 with a strong attack. So let's go back. b6 was played. F takes e5 was a really good option that they didn't notice. Okay, let's just quickly check one more thing again. So f takes e5, knight g4, e takes d5, and queen h4 doesn't work because of the same reason, bishop h7. So white didn't take on e5, they took on d5. Then b takes c5 with the intention of taking here or playing c4 and delivering a check. But white doesn't care and takes on e5. That was not the best move. The best move here was just to move the king to h1 and take on e5 later. For example, what? C takes b4, d6, queen takes d6, f takes e5, queen takes e5, rook a e1, let's say queen h5, and just knight e2 is enough to be able to take there, play this move, bishop h7 and knight g6, which is almost a checkmate. Of course, black finds the defense, but white pieces are much better. So king h1 was a better move. Instead, f takes e5, and black plays c4, check. For example, c takes b4, also a check, is not a good idea, because then king h1, and if now they take on e5, we capture there, c takes d5, and which tactical strike do you think white can apply in this position? What's your opinion? Exactly, it's knight takes d5. Why this move? Because if knight takes, then bishop h7, king moves, and rook f8 is a mate. And if queen takes, it's just bishop c4. Playing something else, of course, makes sense, but white is already better. For example, bishop b7, bishop f4. Let's say queen h5 maybe. But queen h5 is a blunder. Knight e7. If king goes there, bishop g6. If king goes there, then knight g6. Okay, let's go back. C takes b4 wasn't a good idea. Instead, c4 was played. Check, king moves. C takes d3, but e takes f6. And if they take there, on c2, we take on e7 and get a passed pawn. And maybe also take on c6, or play d6 to support it, while the pawn on c2 is a weakness. That's why after e takes f6, black decided to take. If they take with their rook, then queen d3 and white is fine. That's why black decided to capture with the queen. If now rook f6, then d takes c2. Which is... oh, we can just quickly look at it. D takes c2, rook f8, king f8, d takes c6, and bishop e6. So I think because of the bishop pair, black is slightly better. That's why queen d3, we keep the queens on the board. And one more thing, one more useful tip for you. If one of the players is undeveloped, this player would like to pass the game into the end game, because in the end game it's easy to distinguish the initiative and finish pieces development without any complications. Of course, even in the end games there are situations where the player who experiences lack of development can't develop the pieces, their king is under attack, or their pieces are under the pressure, they don't have enough space. So, and the side who leads in development gets the advantage or the initiative. But actually, if you already have the initiative, you'd better keep the queens on the board, because the queen may also become the object of the attack. What means that you can develop your pieces, attack the queen, and later when you get your pieces to better positions, you can coordinate them and create something dangerous for the king maybe, or just for the position, or something that improves your position or prevents enemy pieces development. Okay, so bishop f5 was played. Queen c4, threatening discover the take. Queen d4, queen takes queen, bishop takes d4, d takes c6, rook a c8. Actually, white is just slightly better. They have two extra pawns, but one of them is compensated with the bishop pair. However, white decides to play knight d5. That leads to complicated position. So they give up this rook on a1 because of the idea of playing knight a7, king h7, let's say, knight c8. And now if this rook is taken, white can capture on f5, for example, and get a better position. For example, this, rook c6, and one extra pawn, and I believe it's almost a winning position. So knight d5, and instead of playing rook f8, protecting this square, you see rook f8 is good because on f5, the bishop on f5 is not hanging, the rook is. Instead of playing this move, black decided to play this move, and they just blundered everything. Now rook f5 on knight e7 can be played. But can you believe it? White also blundered and played bishop c3. Now something easy like rook d5 offers a slightly better position for black. For example, rook a d1. No, what else to play? Because if, for example, this move, then bishop d3. So this rook is under attack, and If rook f4, protecting the bishop, then just g5. Rook goes there, and then I think bishop f5 is enough. So bishop c3 was played instead of rook d5. Black also made a mistake. They played bishop e4. Bishop takes d4, also a mistake. Instead, knight e7 and knight c8, or knight e7, bishop d4, rook d4, and then knight c8. Bishop d4, then rook d5 looks good. However, they played bishop d5. And after rook f2, white is slightly better. They may continue their attack of the g7 pawn, and finally they won the game. However, I want you to get back to this position. When after b takes c5, the king h1 move offered a lot of benefits. For white in this position. So this is what white can do to be able to get a huge advantage, but actually they didn't play. So let's sum it up. When you see that your pieces get better activity in case if you open the position, you should definitely open the position. One of the indicators that can tell you that your pieces are better coordinated is the development. The side who is developed better usually gets more benefits in case if the position becomes open. Okay, fine. Now let's talk about the other game. This is the game fragment from the game between Alberto David and Konstantin Sakaev. No, I would say black could be in a trouble if they won't find the solution. The g7 pawn is hanging. Knight b6 blocks black pieces activity and doesn't allow us to play through the b file. What do you think black should play to be able to solve all these problems? Any suggestions? Well, bishop f6 doesn't look good. Bishop f6, they can capture on f6, knight takes f6, and queen takes c4, gaining a pawn. Because if now queen takes queen, knight takes queen, b2 is protected, and if you wanna play d5 to chase my knight, I'll just take and go to b6 to close the b file. This is in white favor, of course. So bishop f6 is actually not the solution for this variation. What else can you suggest? What, guys, do you think about the e5 move? Yeah, so e5. Oh, e5. Yeah, attack the. Okay, so two people suggested e5, which is actually not so good. Why? Because of knight d5. And if, for example, you decide to play queen d8, just bishop f2, and the knight is in the center. Here, one of the possible options is to play bishop h4. Now they can block with the bishop, or they can play this move. Now you play e5. Now knight d5 is not a tempo move. If knight d5 is played in this exact position, what do you think white can do? Oh, sorry. If knight d5 is played, what black can do? What do you think? Yes, exactly. We capture on d4. And if they take our queen, we take there and get an extra minor piece. That's right. But in the previous variation, if, for example, you play e5 right now, knight d5, it takes d4, they can just play knight e7, getting the piece back and capturing the pawn on d4 with the knight. Why with the knight? Because if with the queen, then knight e5 is a double attack. So instead of doing e5 or bishop h4 e5, which is also playable, Konstantin Sakaev decided to take on b6. Then a takes b6, so two pieces are hanging. I mean the queen and the pawn on g7. And what do you think it was his original idea? Why did he take on b6? What does he wanted? What did he want to do on the next move? So guys, don't be afraid to suggest anything even if you think it's wrong. So you are learning chess on these webinars, so suggest and I'll understand what your weaknesses are, and maybe the next webinar will be devoted to something that can cover them. Okay, Parallax 2000 suggests rook takes b6. Okay, congratulations, you are almost Konstantin Sakaev. So you are almost a 26 and 50 player. You see? Actually, wait a sec. Yeah, it does show. It shows, yeah, Konstantin Sakaev rating is below the 8th rank. It's shown 2649, which is good. So rook b6, why do we sacrifice? Because then we get enough compensation. This move allows us to slightly open the position and at the same time take the advantage of having a bishop pair. We are about to play d5 if they play something else. That's why they have to take on c4. But now bishop h4, knight g3, and bishop f6 with the intention of capturing the pawn on b2. You can take the pawn on b2 right now, but bishop f6 looks better. Why not to play such a move? Because the pawn cannot be saved. Oh, this position is approximately equal. Black sacrificed the exchange, but has pieces activity as a compensation. Two bishops are good in the open position. If, for example, bishop g7, which also looks attractive with the intention to take on f8, then d5. The idea of d5 is to play bishop b4, of course. Let's say bishop f8, bishop takes f8. Now bishop b4 doesn't make sense. The bishop will be attacked by the other bishop. So bishop f8, but still threatening with this move. And if now they decide to castle, we can play bishop b4. The queen doesn't have a lot of squares. They can only move to f6. But then e5, and the queen is under the attack. We have a strong pawn center. Two bishops are open. So we have a lot of benefits. The only disadvantage that we has is that we already sacrificed the material. However, it's only the exchange. If, for example, castle queen side, then bishop g7, threatening to take the pawn. And if knight d4, we can continue the attack with e5 and d4. So taking the g7 or the b6 rook was a bad idea. Instead, white decided to castle immediately. Here, the best option was maybe to play this move to prepare for the attack with the intention of getting the other rook to b8. However, black decided to play f6. This is how they closed their bishop and at the same time forced white to capture on b6. But e5 is still a possible move. Why? Because yes, such a move weakens the d5 square, but actually white can't take the advantage of getting the control over d5 immediately. If they decide to occupy with the rook, then bishop e6 can be played. So their task is to bring the knight somehow to d5, but you see it's impossible to play with just a few tempers. They have to move the queen, they have to play knight e3 and knight d5 after that. And while white spends tempers on this maneuver, for example, black can play bishop e6, rook b8, threatening a mate. Okay, so queen a3, queen a7 with the intention of playing d5, king b1. That was a critical mistake actually. Knight c3 and knight g3 could be played in this position, anything, but they played king b1, allowing black to play d5 and open the position. For example, d5, queen c3. Then what do you think you should play? D4, but d4, queen c4, what can you say about that? Or maybe it's queen c4 is not a problem for you. What do you think? Yeah, so d4 makes sense. Okay, at least you can play d takes e4, f takes e4, bishop g4, then queen c4 and rook b8 with a strong attack. Or you can try you can try d4, queen takes c4 and bishop e6, which also looks good and maybe even better because the position becomes closed in the center and open on the queen side. So we have a clear plan of what to do, while our opponent struggles and can't use their rooks. So yeah, here black also has the initiative and it's difficult to defend. For example, what? Knight c1 maybe? a5 with rook b4 intention. Then creating a battery. Okay, fine. But unfortunately, Konstantin Sakaev didn't play d5 in this position. He played bishop e6, preparing for d5, but actually now they could just move the queen to a safe place and black would be just slightly better. White played knight c3 instead, and they got d5. Queen a5, d4, knight goes to d5, bishop d6, f4, trying to undermine the center. So here one more thing you should remember. Yes, black wants to open the position to take the advantage of their bishop pair, but at the same time, white has rooks, and to be able to take the advantage of rook versus bishop play, they also should open the position, but mainly the files. That's why they play f4 to open the files. E takes f4, e5. If now bishop e5, knight e7, and the bishop on e5 is lost. That's why bishop c5. Knight f4, bishop g4 taking the pawn, rook goes to e1. Again, maybe that was not the best move. Maybe they could sacrifice the rook on d1 and play something else. But they played rook a d to e1 to protect the pawn. Rook b8, e6. How would you play in this position? What do you think? What suggestions do you have? Bishop b4. Interesting. Oh, actually, bishop b4 was played a little bit later, but I don't like this move. Okay, so bishop b4, f takes, e takes f7. What then? Queen takes f7 or king takes f7? I think king takes f7 is too risky. Queen takes f7. Now queen e5. The rook is under attack. Okay, you may say, okay, what if king takes? Because now the rook is not hanging. But if so, we can just play queen d5 check and then join our rook to the attack. White is winning. Of course, we should take on e6, but the question is which piece to take, the pawn or the bishop. If I were black, I would definitely take with the pawn to keep my bishop alive. However, no, yeah, and then the position is winning. F takes e6, what to suggest? If knight e6, for example, then bishop takes, rook takes, and just queen b7, a double attack. The game is over. But Sakaev played bishop e6. Okay, when rook e4? F takes e6, then here rook e4, but still queen b7. Okay, so he played bishop takes e6, knight takes, pawn takes, and in this position, of course, they don't take, they play rook h to f1. And how would you play? What do you think? This is move at number 32, and I believe they made mistakes because of a lack of time they had. But in this position, black could get a strong advantage and continue their attack. So Indrajit suggested bishop b4, making a fork with the intention to gain the exchange back. What other suggestions do we have today? What? Rook e6? Wait, e5 you mean? Ah, e5. I'm not sure about e5. Oh, queen b7. Yeah, queen b7 looks better. What now? The pawn is hanging with a mate, so something like b3 is a bad idea. At least c takes b3 leads to a checkmate. Queen e2? Maybe. Looks like the best move to protect the pawn. Then just queen d5 and we can continue the attack. Bishop b4, bishop c3 and rook b2 finally. There is not much they can do. But Sakaev played bishop b4. That was a mistake. Queen e5, bishop e1, queen e6, king h8, rook takes e1, and in this position he is 2 pawns up. The position is of course winning. He plays queen c5 and in a few moves he realized his advantage and won the game. But if only he played queen b7 and queen d5, I'm sure he would win the game much faster. Okay, let's go back and try to sum it up. So the position is closed. And looks like white pieces are okay, black pieces I think are almost the same. The bishop on c8 is blocked and is unlikely to be developed if the position doesn't change. Black is about to castle to the king side or the queen side and finish their development. So I would say both sides are developed approximately equal. But black has a bishop pair, and they can take the advantage of this bishop pair if only they open the position. Of course, one of the typical ideas of opening the position is to play to offer a pawn trade in the center, but in this position it's almost impossible. So e5, d5, maybe, but not immediately. g7 is hanging. Knight d5 is a threat. That's why another idea to be able to open the position and take the advantage of the bishop pair is to sacrifice the exchange like that, which black successfully did. Of course, there is no guarantee that black defeats white, but the position is playable, and maybe practically it's better to play this position for black. White has extra material, but they have to defend to be able to keep it and realize later in the end game, for example, rook versus bishop. Okay, fine. Let's now analyze the last game fragment that I prepared. This is the game fragment between two famous grandmasters from history, Svetozar Grigorich and Daniel Yanovsky. Please look at this position and tell me what you think. Who is better and why? Okay, white has active knights. That's true. What is the main disadvantage of black position? Yes, thank you. Black has trapped rooks. This is the main disadvantage that black has. They also experiences a lack of space. What do you think white should do in such a case? So we concluded that white is better and black rooks are trapped, at least for a while, for a few tempers. How to take the advantage of it? b5. Interesting. Okay, let's make this move on the board. b5, a takes b5. What then? Followed by a6. To open the files for the rooks. The idea is good, however the moves are not so good. B takes a6, and then what? You'll play this move, and the best thing you can do is to capture on a6, so to get the pawn back. But it's only one pawn. You have to get to win one more pawn to equalize. Okay, no. Knight a4. What's the intention of knight a4? I don't think the knight is better on b6 if comparing to c5. What else? Rook f3, and rook f3 has no idea behind it. We can't play f5, we can't open the position right now. c4, the move suggested by Mike M. King Attacker. Good move. Looks like a blunder by the first glance, but if you analyze a little bit deeper, you will realize that this is a really good move. What then? Well, for example, what if they take? If they take, we enter their camp with rook d7, capture there. Yeah, we can do a lot. Maybe just rook d7, the other rook comes there. You see, knight b4 cannot be played, rook d8. What if they play knight b4 immediately? Yeah, so then this move. Here, please notice that this knight is protected. The knight from b4 has to move. it can go to c6, or it can be supported with the other knight. If it is supported with the other knight, then just c takes d5, e takes d5, and rook db1. The knight is trapped. If this knight retreats, then rook b7. We gain the pawn back, but open the files for our rooks. So actually opening the position is in white favor. That's why black decided not to open it, but play king g7. C takes d5. Now he takes with the knight. And what do you think we should do? What suggestions do you have? Knight e6, knight e6, f takes e6. The queen is on c8, still protecting it. Sacrificing two knights on e6 with the intention of gaining the one on d5 is definitely not the best idea, but at the same time I can say that black is better there because their king is exposed. So yeah, we can play f5 like Grigorich played, but another thing we can do is a sacrifice on d5. E takes d5, e6. Now if they take, the position becomes too exposed. If they play f6, which looks better than just this move, and if f takes g5, check. There and there, just one of the pawns takes with a checkmate. For example, king f6, rook f7 is actually enough. So if he goes there, then f takes g5 leads to a checkmate with queen f7. If they don't take on g5, for example, play rook d8, rook d7, rook takes rook, pawn takes, queen moves to g8 to prevent knight e6, but still knight e6, king h7, and queen d2, with the intention of playing knight b7 and d8, or maybe what else? Or maybe just queen d5. Threatening with knight g5 or knight b7 and d8. Okay, fine. But white decided not to play rook d5. That was considered too sharp in the position where you can just sacrifice the pawn and get a stronger attack. G takes f5. Oh, rook g3 is still possible. King f8, rook d5, e takes d5, and e6 offers a strong attack. But white decided to take on d5 immediately. What do you think? How to continue in this position? We are down the exchange, but the enemy king is exposed, our pieces are coordinated better, and we definitely have a compensation. How would you play? Rook takes d5. Yeah, guys, I agree with you. Rook takes d5. And what then? No, taking the knight is a bad idea. Rook f5, and then we can deliver a mate. King g5, knight e4. And then queen f6 and knight g5 leads to a mate. If they play something else, then still rook f5 with a winning position. But Grigorich played knight f7, which is also a good move, however not as good as rook d5. Knight e7, black wants to sacrifice the material back, but find how to defend. Actually, taking the rook right now isn't a good idea because the knight is activated better than the rook in the corner. queen d4, knight c6, queen takes d5, rook d8. We can take on d8, but knight d7 is even better. King moves to g6, rook f1, intending with queen f5, knight e7, and now what do you think white should do? After this move, black resigned. What was this move? Rook f3, or maybe even rook f3. But there is something better. Anything else you can suggest? Queen d4, yes, you're absolutely right. It's queen d4, attacking here. How to protect? I have no ideas. If this move, then knight h8, gaining the rook for free. So then queen takes there and the game is over. If, for example, rook d7, then knight h8 first, queen h8, and e takes d7, a completely winning position, extra exchange plus a strong pawn on d7. Okay, let's go back and try to sum it up. What did we have in this game? So when we came to this position, we definitely realized that white occupies better squares with their knights. Two rooks are coordinated and prepared for fighting for the d file. Black rooks are trapped. This is the key factor. If, for example, the rook was there, then maybe opening the position won't be so effective. But the rooks are trapped and it takes time for them to join the game. That's why white realizes that in such a case they would have extra material, at least for a few more moves, for a few tempers. This is another criteria that you may remember when you decide whether to open the position or not. So if you don't know what exactly to play and you're thinking about opening the position, try to realize in whose favor it will be. Who gets better coordination with their pieces in case if the position becomes open. If the king is exposed, then opening the position is a good idea for the attacking player and bad idea for a defending player. Also, to take the advantage of your bishop pair or to activate your rook, you may open the position. Okay, guys, these are 3 games that I wanted to show you today. And do you have any questions? While you are thinking about the questions, I would like to let you know that I'm going to conduct 2 simuls this upcoming week, one on Tuesday, the other one on Friday, and everything will be posted in our educational group on chess.com, Tricks of Chess. So here, please join, it's free, of course. So all the information about my simuls will be published there. Okay, so if no questions, then thank you for joining the webinar. Thank you for supporting me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, there is a question. So a good comment. I thought opening position might allow defensive side to exchange pieces. That's true. But if you see that they have to spend several tempers to be able to join the pieces to the center and somehow trade them, then yes, you'd better open the position, because you will use these tempers and do something really helpful for your position, or something that ruins enemy position, for example, and they won't have time to improve their pieces to be able to trade them. However, if you see that the enemy king is under attack and the center is... No, I mean, if you see that the king becomes more open in case if you open the center, then it makes sense. So the tournament will be announced next week, and I'm going to start it the week after. As for the simul's, Tuesday and Friday. Okay, thank you guys, and definitely see you next Sunday on my next webinar. Goodbye.